Hello and welcome to the Clarity Confessions. I'm your host, Kaylin Asher, and this is the place for clarity, inspiration, and business secrets from top female entrepreneurs. And today on the show, I am delighted to be bringing you Lacey Craig. Lacey is a business mentor and success coach for high-performing women entrepreneurs. She has her MS in mental health counseling and her MBA. She's been a therapist and the director of a $45 million a year nonprofit. She's also the proud owner of 2 successful online businesses and the co-host of the Leading Greatly podcast. It is her mission to help other women build and grow their own service-based business that truly lights them up and gives them the personal and financial freedom and impact they've always desired. I'm so excited to be talking with you today, Lacey. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Kaylin.
Of course. I'm really excited to dive into our conversation today, and I'd love to just start out with, how did you get started on this entrepreneurial path? I mean, you have, all this education, you've had fabulous jobs. Like, what led you to be an entrepreneur?
So growing up, my entire family, my mom's family, they were all entrepreneurs. Like my grandfather, all of her siblings, her. So I kind of always had that entrepreneurial spirit. Like I remember someone asking me when I was younger, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, oh, I'm going to own my own business. And they were like, great, doing what? And I was like, I have no idea. I'm just going to own my own business. So I just kind of always had that nudge, but obviously I went in a different direction. And then towards the end, they're just feeling really unfulfilled. Like you said, I had, what a lot of people thought should be a dream job. I heard that a lot. You have your dream job really young. And I just remember thinking holy crap, is this what that feels like? Because this doesn't feel that good, right? So it was kind of just real, trying on the other suit, so to speak, and realizing that didn't really fit.
Yeah, I think that's always a scary place when people are telling you, you've got it made, you have your dream job, this is what life is all about. And you're like, oh God, really?
Yes, exactly. And you're like, wow, this is interesting. Not quite what I expected.
Yeah. So before we move into more conversation, I'd love to kick things off with some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Are you ready for them?
Yes.
Okay. When did you get clarity about your business?
Oh gosh, I mean, I think daily. I think I'm still doing that every day.
It is a process for sure.
Yes, for sure.
Can you describe your business in 10 words or less?
Oh, I like this. Helping other women create a business that allows them to live a lit up life. That might have been more than 10, but
close enough. Yeah. I like it. So why do you love the work you're doing?
For me, it's because it's the only place where I feel like I can combine all the different experiences and backgrounds that I have. This is the place where they all fit together and where I feel like I'm using all of my strengths.
What makes you feel the most successful?
I always say big income months are good, big impact months are great, and big income and impact months together are best. So I feel the most successful when I feel like I'm hitting those 2 pieces together and that I'm not choosing.
Yeah, that does feel really good. There's such validation that comes from both in very different ways.
Yes, exactly.
So what personal practices or self-care do you make time for regularly?
So meditation is super important to me. That's something I definitely make time for. Being outside is really important to me. Once I started becoming an entrepreneur, I realized there could be a whole 2 days where I literally didn't leave my house. So that's been something more recently that I've really incorporated is how do we get outside time every day?
For you, what is the best thing about being an entrepreneur?
Oh gosh, just being fulfilled and being able to create that impact in other people and not having that feeling, right, of driving to work every day going, is this all there is?
And what is the hardest thing about being an entrepreneur?
I think it's that you have to own personal responsibility on an entirely new level.
And this is the last one. What is one word that sums up your business mission?
I would say impact.
That's a good one. It feels so good when you are in line with your purpose and making an impact. And then it's also such a gift to help other people recognize that in and of themselves too.
Right. Absolutely. It's when you're building your business, right? At first you win when you're impacting your clients. And as you continue to grow, then you win when your clients are creating impact, right?
Exactly. So I know you're relatively new in your business. And I would love to just hear, what did that first year in business look like for you?
I've been super lucky in my first year for sure. I had built another online business before this, so I sort of had an idea, right? Like I didn't come in totally green, but I also came in really naive, I think. Like I just saw a lot of people talking about like, oh, make 6 figures your first year, right? And I was like, oh, okay, I'll just do that. And I think in a lot of ways, being naive about it and then just like going full force really, really served me in my first year and just helped me grow into the vision that I had.
And so looking back, what are some things that you feel like you did right in that first year that you're like, I would recommend anybody in their first year of business, make sure you do this?
So the top 2 things that come to mind are like trust myself and listen to my intuition was huge. Like I think this world that we're in, this bubble, so to speak, that we're in can be really noisy and it can drown out your own intuition and your own voice. And so one of my biggest pieces of advice would be don't lose that. Don't ever let that, get drowned out by everyone else, because that is the thing that will create success for you, is when you're listening to yourself and you're in alignment. And then the second thing I think would just be like, show up, be consistent. I showed up religiously, daily in my business. Now, not all day, every day, right? Not even full days, most days, but when you're building a business, it's like you're literally raising a baby, right? So how are you showing up for that every day?
Yeah, that's so key. And that's actually something I speak on a lot, is that consistency piece. And it's what really starts to create that gap between the amateur and the pro. It's like when you start showing up consistently and having that be just part of what you do for yourself and your business, it puts you in a different league. Even if you don't have a ton of clients, even if you're not making a ton of money, it just puts you in the mindset of the professional, and that puts you leaps and bounds ahead of those other people who are just kind of like, oh, well, I'll play around with this and I'll show up here and I'll show up there, but they don't really believe that it's heading anywhere, and then it doesn't.
I totally agree. I actually coached 3 clients for free for the first 3 months of my business. And that's what it did, right? It just put me in the mindset of like, I am a service provider running a business and I have things to do and I have clients to show up for. And that changed everything.
And so was that something you'd recommend, that people, if they are looking to explore coaching, that they do some pro bono work early on?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, not necessarily even pro bono, but any kind of like energy exchange that feels good for them, right? Like maybe a really low cost, maybe there's a certain level of investment, maybe there's a percentage. It really doesn't matter. But it's like, what is the thing that's going to get you providing the service, not like sitting waiting for a client to validate your worth by paying you, right?
Yeah. Get out there, do what you're meant to be doing. That's such great advice. And so looking back to that first year, what are some things that you don't recommend other people do? Is there anything that sticks out? You're like, oh God, I wish I hadn't have gone down that rabbit hole or done that for myself.
Oh, that's so good. I think like every time I've gotten off track is when I've let someone else tell me what to do that trumped my intuition or my inner guidance. Like one thing that sticks out to me is I remember someone was telling me to do sales in a certain way, and I was like, oh gosh, I just can't do it this way, and this feels so out of alignment, and so let me go pay someone else to teach me how to do sales, right? And so I bought this whole other course, and we got into the first day of it, and she asked the question like, well, what's your conversion rate now, so we can figure out, where we're taking it to. And when I like went back and figured that out, because I was still really new, I was like, oh, I don't even know. It was 100%, but like, which is ridiculous, right? I had spent so many like sleepless nights and so much money, like worried about like, why am I not doing this thing right? And I was doing it right all along. So for me, like in looking back, it was like, had I trusted myself a little bit earlier, I think things could have grown even more.
Yeah. And I think we sometimes second guess, especially as women, second guess the innate power that we possess just coming into it, and we think, oh, who am I to be doing this? Who am I to be offering this advice? And that self-doubt just permeates everything. And when we can get out of our own way and actually show up the way we need to, everything feels just so much better and our business flows so much better.
I totally agree. And it's like amazing what just that shift does for you, right?
Mm-hmm. Completely. So what are you right now most excited about now that, you have that first year under your belt, things are going amazing, you're working with, awesome clients that you love, like what's on the horizon for you?
So I'm like really excited about finding new creative ways to do business. I recently, in my history in the nonprofit world, that was kind of what I did is I like redid service delivery models and systems. And so that's something I'm really excited about doing in this industry because I think we're hungry for it and we're ready for it. So I recently did this small beta test experiment with clients through something I called a lit up partnership. And basically I took on 3 clients and they're only paying me 15% of the revenue we generate during the time we work together.
That's really interesting. I haven't seen too many coaches offering something like that. And I would imagine that would be really attractive to the clients.
Certainly. And obviously there's like some downfalls there in that they're not investing right up front, right? So I made them go through a pretty tedious process at the beginning to apply for it. But the point is that I think this industry, like we're almost creating carbon copies of businesses, right? We're like franchising coaching to a certain extent. So I'm really interested and excited about like, how do we create new opportunities, different business models and, blue oceans. I'm not sure if you're familiar with blue ocean strategy, but
I love
that. Really interesting, right? It's so good. And it's like, how do we create more blue oceans in the coaching industry?
Oh, that's really cool. And so how are the women that you're working with liking that format?
It's been amazing. In some of the cases, 15% has actually been more than my coaching fee. Often, actually, it's been more. So, their investment has been very different in the sense that they're not paying that fee, but they're also, I think, a lot more invested in like, I want to pay you, you're serving me, and I want to do really well, and I want to show up for this opportunity. And I've seen that really evolve and change their businesses.
That's really awesome. I think it's so important to explore new creative ways to serve our clients and also to grow our businesses in a way that feels really right for us. Because like you said, I think a lot of people, they see what's working for someone else and they just slap it on their own business. And then maybe it doesn't work so well. And they're really kind of bummed out and disheartened by the fact that that's happening. But it's because they didn't seek out their own best path for them.
Yes, exactly. And also I think, a lot of the ways that we're doing business now in the coaching industry is like kind of putting up some barriers. So I'm like super curious about like, how do we take down some of these barriers in this industry where people can still create businesses and get support without feeling like they're deciding between like that and their mortgage, right?
Exactly. And I'd love to know, and I know you've worked with coaches and I'm sure you have a lot of mentors in the industry. What's the best piece of advice that you've received that's really helped you get to where you are in your business now?
Oh, that's so good. I guess I would say, some of the best advice really is just know yourself, kind of like what we were just talking about, right? Is like finding something someone else is doing and trying to put it on your thing instead of knowing yourself. Like, what are your strengths? What's important to you? What are the things that matter? Because when you know yourself, building a business suddenly becomes much easier because you have these things, these strengths, these tendencies, this way of aligning that becomes really obvious. And so knowing myself has really been, I think, the best piece of advice and the thing that's helped me grow.
So taking that advice, how have you applied that to your business? What have you incorporated of yourself and your strengths into your particular, style of coaching or the way you work with clients?
So one of the things or the ways that I've incorporated that into coaching that I think is really important, and it definitely kind of, bridges the gap with therapy too, though, is really being an adaptable coach and leader. And so what I mean is like, if I need to know myself, then I also need to know my clients, and I need to know that they're each motivated in a different way. So how do I become an adaptable coach for each person? Not like I coach in this way, and if it works for you, great. But like I meet them where they're at based on knowing them and then coach from that place. You know, some of my clients are really motivated by tough love. Some of them would want to fire me with that, right? It's just like, what is the thing that motivates that person? And then how do you coach from that place?
Mm. And do you think that's a model that would work for everybody, or is this something that works particularly well for you?
I think it depends. I think that it would actually work for everybody, but I think sometimes people aren't available to trust themselves to do that, right?
Yeah.
You know, so you have to be very trusting of yourself to be like, I'm going to adapt to the person in front of me, and I'm going to trust that like the right things will come up and I will know how to support them, right?
Yeah. Yes. And I
and
would
really,
go ahead.
Challenging. Yeah.
Yeah. And I imagine your background, you know, coming from therapy, I'm sure that gave you a number of different techniques that maybe not all coaches possess to, you know, create that level of adaptability and intimacy in the coaching process.
For sure. I think that has helped my confidence a lot in being able to translate that for sure.
Mm-hmm. So if someone is listening to this and thinking, okay, I hear that advice, you know, I need to know myself, like what are some things that they can do or books that they can read or practices they can implement to help that process if they're really feeling like, I don't know who I am as an entrepreneur or as a coach?
Yeah. So a couple of the things that I do, one is meditation. I think that's huge. I really wish I remembered who said this because I say this all the time and I don't know who to quote, but it's, you know, prayer is when we talk to God and meditation is when he talks to us, right? So for me, meditation is that time where I like really get in touch with myself and my higher self and my higher power. And so that helps me know myself on a deeper level. That also helps me know like my voice versus someone else's, right? Because that's where it gets a little hard to know yourself. Like, is this mine or not, right? So then another question that I ask around that often that one of my dear friends, Lindsay Landry, taught me is this mine? So like when we're going down a path, say we're making a decision in our business and say the decision is like, you know, I'm going to raise my prices. Is this mine? Like, does this feel really in alignment and really good? Or is this like my coach pushing me into something that I'm like, doesn't feel good for me yet? Or is this looking at other people in the industry and feeling pressure around that? Like, what is really truly mine here? And really feeling into that along the process and path of your business, I think. And then you get to see, right, where do I show up authentically and what is mine and where am I still letting other people kind of run the show?
I like that. I think that's a great check-in because we can operate from kind of a place of autopilot, like, oh, I should raise my rates because everyone else is, or because my coach said, or, you know, I should work with clients in this way because everyone else is doing it. And to check in and be like, does this even feel right for me right now? And does it sound like fun? Does it sound like it would serve my clients better? And to constantly turning, you know, as we're saying, turning back in and checking in with what's true for you and not worrying about if it looks like what everyone else is doing.
Certainly. It's kind of like, I think you have to find the thing that's true for you and then you get to put strategy and support around that, right? But that's step one.
Great. Yeah, I like that. So now that we're nearing the end of our conversation, is there, thinking back, you know, about what we've been talking about, is there anything you'd like to encourage the listeners to do or an action step that you'd love to see them take, you know, away from our conversation today?
Oh, I love that question. I think the most important thing, you know, to kind of like walk away with from this like reflection would be, do I know myself and am I running my business from that place, right? Do I know myself and am I showing up consistently from that place? So if you are not sure, that's like a great journal topic to dive into. It's a great thing to talk to like your mentor or best friend about, like, hey, someone asked me, like, do I know myself and am I running my business from that place? And like, I actually don't have an answer to that. So can you work through that with me, right? And because I think that's true sometimes is we're, again, surrounded by so much noise. So when we dive in and go, am I running it from this place? And is this true? sometimes the answer is, I don't know. So the next action step would be, how do you enlist support to kind of process through that?
Yeah, and I think asking questions like that, sometimes just bringing awareness to it is enough. And you can kind of float the question out there. That would actually be a great thing to do, if you are considering a meditation practice or have a meditation practice. And then just float it out there and see what arrives. It's not something you necessarily need a hard and fast answer to immediately, but to just bring some awareness to it and see what unfolds.
Totally. And also, it doesn't have to be yes everywhere, right? Like, I'm talking from a place of wouldn't that be perfect if we could do that all the time? I'm definitely still not doing that 100% all the time, right? It's always a process and a practice.
Great. And so, lastly, where can people find you? What's the best place to connect with you?
Yeah. So my business is called A Lit Up Life. So they can go to my website, www.alituplife.com. And then I'm always in my Facebook community, which is the Lit Up and Loaded Entrepreneur. So I would love to have people join there as well.
Fantastic. Well, Lacey, thank you so much for joining the show today. It has been awesome chatting with you. And I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your stories with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Caitlin. It was so great to talk to you as well.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.